Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to We Care Ministry Support Team Saturday discussion. Today we will be talking about part two from our last discussion, the 7 stages or the different stages of grief. And today we're going to talk about helping to give you a better understanding about what the grieving process looks like. It's going to be me and Vanessa on today. So we pray that we will say something that will encourage someone to help us to think about what we say before we open our mouths. Some of the stuff we say today may be a little bit funny, but it's not funny when you're on the receiving end. It is amazing some of the things that we say, but we mean well, but it's not necessarily good to say. So we're asking you now that if you have an opportunity or you're ready to start your watch party, to share us and on your We Care page and ask somebody to join in with you today so that they can be more enlightened and everybody can help everybody through the process. Because we know that there has been quite a bit of deaths just from COVID alone. And that's not including the people who we're losing on that we would have lost at anyway. So we're just trying to help bring more awareness to the grieving process. So today, I pray that you are well. We pray that you are well. And remember that, we do pray for you on Thursdays, so don't forget. So without further belaying the time, we're going to get right into it because we have a lot to talk about today. And we're going to remind you of some of the things that we said last time. And we're going to hopefully say something new that will bring an even greater understanding. Today, again, we're going to talk about better understanding the grieving process. So in our discussions on the last time, we had someone from California, Dr. Simmons, and she was talking about the different stages of grief. But we want to remind you today that there is no right and wrong way to grieve. So we want you to remember that everyone grieves differently. And the way that I handle things may not be the way that Sister Vanessa handled it or the way that you handle it, because it's individual and it's based upon the individual person. And grief can be involve some extreme emotions. You can deal with someone who could high 1 minute and low the next. They're crying 1 minute and laughing in the next minute. They're really quiet and withdrawn at one point, and then the next minute they're yelling. So everybody is different, and their emotions may range from one extreme to the other. So these are things that we need to look for in our friends and even in ourselves and our loved ones, and so we can help to guide them through the process better. And there is no time limit. You can't tell me that I got 24 hours to grieve. You've grieved long enough. You got to go back to work. Well, even the job give us a little bit of time off to get ourselves together from the loss. And so we have to be gentle with one another and compassionate with one another and give each other a little bit of time so that we can walk through the process. And then we have to also remind us, I want to remind you that we have to just be there to comfort and reassure them without minimizing their loss, because they've gone through something. And even though we've gone through it, it's still not the same thing. It may be similar. The situation may be similar, but it is different for them. And we have to just listen and be compassionate. And remember the ministry of presence. Just being there means a lot. It means a lot to someone who just needs someone in their space, because remember, their lives have changed. That person that filled those empty spaces in their lives is no longer there. So just be available and acknowledge and accept how they feel. It's okay to feel the way that they're feeling, and we have to let them know that, and be willing to just be silent. Don't say anything. If they don't want to talk, don't talk. Just be available and let them talk about their loved one, because that person is important important to them, and we don't want to not acknowledge that importance or that person in their life. So we have to give them time to tell their stories. And if we have good stories about that loved one, it's nothing wrong with talking about that loved one with them so that they can know that we acknowledge that. And we just have to be patient. If they repeat that story 1,000 times, let them repeat that story because they're going through the stages. And just it's just okay. So those are the things we want to talk about on today. And the most important thing we're going to talk about today is what not to say to a grieving person. So we hope we don't get to, it's humorous and we all heard it and we've all been guilty. We've said some of this stuff. So we have to just be mindful of the words that we speak. And Sister Vanessa is going to remind us about the stages of grief that we talked about on last session.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. 7 stages of grief. We learned last time that it was the shock, the pain, the anger, and bargaining, depression. And then we learned about the acceptance and hope. Those are the 5. And those are usually for people that may have had a terminal diagnosis. So when you hear the 5 stages, those are the ones that receive the news, and the news is of death, as far as their condition. Oh, there's no hope, there's no, and these are some of the things they may go through while they're still living. And then the 7 stages we learned were those who actually are going through it, that actually feel it after someone passes away. So these are the stages that I will go over. So the shock and denial, and this is where you feel the numbness, the no emotion. Is this real? This can't be real. Not my loved one, not my friend, not my brother. And you go into that. Shock provides emotional protection from being overwhelmed at once. So it's not a bad thing that someone is in shock emotionally at the initial onset, because this is a protection from a major breakdown. So until their mind can conceive it, they may go through the shock and the denial until they actually can grasp that this is real. So be patient. The other is pain and guilt. So after the shock wears off, usually it happens when they're suffering the unbelievable pain, but it's so to the point to where they feel, I could have did more. What could have I done more? I could have done more. I could have said this. If I had said this, if I had done that. And they go through this process of pretty much some self-blame or taking on the total reason why this person is no longer here, and when it may not at all be their fault. And in some of the things that they say is, oh yeah, if I had just, I remember 2 years ago, they said this, if I had just, and we go through that. And so this is normal. This is normal. Allow people to go through the process. Life has just taken a dramatic and some people traumatic change. So they're not okay right at that moment, but they are okay to grieve. So let them do so. Anger and bargaining, that's the frustration that they get. And these are in no particular order. Sometimes it may go, as Dr. J was telling us, in any order. It depends on the person. But this anger and bargaining is they're trying to control the situation. This is a permanent change that they're hoping to be temporary. With this change, they're saying, God, if you just, or they're saying, I'll change if so there's always something. They may go against fate as why me? Why am I going through this? And they may bargain with God or with another person, or I'll never get drunk again if you bring them back. things like that. So this is a phase, a stage of grief and depression, reflection, and loneliness. So they put those together because they go together. As just when your friends may think you should be getting on with your life, along comes a period of sad reflection. And if you've lost anyone, think about it. You could be having a great day, and this was actually a good day. And all of a sudden, there's a wave of emotions that overtake you or flood you to the degree where you're like, where did this come from? I was okay when I woke up. I was okay when I went to the grocery store. Now, all of a sudden, boom. Mm-hmm. Or there may be a trigger. Someone may not have seen you in 6 months, and today was a good day that you didn't think about what happened. And they said, oh, I'm sorry. I heard about your cousin, and it brings back emotions. So they will have these times. Don't say to them, you should be over it by now. This is their way of grieving, and this is part of the healing process. People don't believe, but grief is a part of healing. And they want you to get over it quickly a lot of times so they don't have to deal with you anymore. And that's sad. As supporters, we should not be like that. We don't want to be in people's lives who brush us or we brush off, because it makes them feel like we don't care, and we care. We really do care. And we want to show support, have patience, use wisdom. Use wisdom. Don't just go with your emotions and your feelings. Don't start telling all these different stories of how quickly you got over it. You're not them, they're not you. So let them grieve. It is a process, not your timing, but it's between them and God. And God in time heals all wounds. And you give God time and they give God time, they will heal and they will continue to move forward. And then you have the upward turn in this process where you start to adjust to life, and you have more good days than bad days. And those days will come. If you're grieving right now, know that those days will come where you have more positive days than negative days. Not that you won't stop remembering, but the remembering of that person or the memory of that person will not be so devastating and negative. Right. You will be able to smile and enjoy life again. And then you have the reconstruction and working through process. So it's broken down a little more so it's understandable as you become more functional and you start doing things as a normal way of life again. And some people are grieving through this COVID, not just losing loved ones, but not having a normal way of life. And so it will come again. And maybe not the way we think normal is, but it will come to where we can actually enjoy life again. But you will find a way to move forward, believe me, because everything in you will push you forward if you allow it. And this is why we should not remain in depression and in these stages forever, but do work towards moving forward. And so then the final stage is hope or acceptance. You accept it. It happened. This is the last of the 7 stages in the grief module, in the stages of grief. And this is where you've given the pain long enough to cause you sadness, cause you to continually cry and be in a negative state and the turmoil that you experience. And then now you're like, okay, yes, it did happen. Yes, I am a widow, or yes, my son or daughter did pass away. And now, so you begin to accept that. And then you can, actually really begin to express yourself more. Sometimes it's hard for people to express themselves when they're still in denial. How are you going to express what you don't think is real? So when you acknowledge that, hey, it did happen, I do accept it, it is real, this is life, this is what's happening with me, and be honest, get you someone to talk to and talk to them about your loved one, because they were special, they were here, they did mean something to you, And even for those who that may not have been close to you, they still had a place in your life at some point. And so make sure you do not just hold and bottle all this in, because you have a ministry support team here if you do not have a support team where you are. And you can always contact us, email us, send us messages. You can, there's a thing on the page now, Sister Kim, that was set up to where they can make appointments if 30-minute increments, and they can go to the calendar and make their own appointment. And if someone is available, that appointment will be met and we will be able to meet with you. So we've made it more convenient for you to make an appointment. So you don't even have to email us. You can make an appointment, put down the information of how we contact you, what's the best time to call, and we'll do that. We want to help you. We want to help you navigate through. So this is what we're here for. So we've gone over those. And Sister Kim, our topic today is what not to say to a grieving person. What not to say. You wouldn't believe what people do say. And then, like Sister Kim said, we've heard it. You've heard it if you lost someone. People come over with their chicken and say some of the worst things they could say instead of just leaving the chicken. But we're going to learn what not to say. We don't want to be those people who cause more harm than good, who cause more sadness than anything. You know, we want to be those people that are there for support. And so, first question, Sister Kim.
Yes, ma'am.
Give me something. Tell me something. Give me an example of what not to say.
Okay. The first most obvious thing that we should not say is, how are you doing? The reason why you don't ask that question is the obvious. They just lost someone. So we pretty much know how they're doing. We know that they're hurting. We know that they're sad. And a lot of times we say that for the lack of something better to say. And we tell them that because we hope that they will say, I'm doing good, I'm doing fine, and that leaves us with nothing to do. And most times that's what we hear. People will tell us, oh, I'm okay, I'm doing fine. And in our hearts, we know that they're not okay and they're not doing fine. But that's what they tell us because they know that's what we really want to hear. Because it makes us uncomfortable to be in the presence of someone who's hurting and we can't really do anything about it. So what we don't want to say, or what we should not be saying, is, how are you doing?
Wow. Wow. So what do you think would be best to say?
Well, I think that what would come across a little bit better, and you can kind of word it the way you want to word it, but we would really kind of say something like, it's got to be really tough for you right now. I know that you're hurting. I know that you're going through a really tough period right now, and acknowledge where they are. We have to acknowledge that they are hurting and they are not doing okay, and that they're going through a painful time. So we have to tell them, I know that, and I acknowledge that. And we don't want to gloss over their feelings. We want to let them know that they have a chance to grieve, and it is okay for them to have that without any judgment from us. So make sure that we just give them that the acknowledgement and say, yes, I know that you are, and it's really rough for you right now, but I'm going to give you the space, and it's okay for you to go right now. And so that's the end of my question. So of course, you know, I have a question. I'm the one on here that always have a question. So Vanessa, give an example of what you would say we should not be asking.
One of the things we should not say or try not to say.
Yes.
We should not say or try not to say. Can you hear me? Okay. We should say something like this: they're in a better place. Even if you think they are, you should not say that. That is not comforting to someone who just lost someone, that they are in a better place at that time, at that moment, right then, especially if it's new and fresh. It's hard for them to receive that information. And like I said before, use wisdom when to say certain things. But reason why saying you're there in a better place during such a confusing and personal and hard time, it's better to be cautious than to assume that this person can receive those words. This phrase seems to de-emphasize the pain that this person may be feeling at the moment. And the person is still gone and not with them. And that's a hard loss. So if I just lost someone and they're gone and you're telling me they're in a better place, well, I want them with me. I understand that. I believe in God. I love God. I believe in heaven. I believe if this person was saved, that they are going to heaven or they've gone to heaven. I believe that. But that doesn't change that I still want them here too. Mm-hmm. So them being in a better place, I felt they were in a better place with me. Yeah. So I'm struggling to accept that they're gone away from me and you're telling me they're in a better place. Well, their chair is empty. My side of the bed is empty. Their place in the recliner is empty. That was a good place for me. So we have to have some empathy and be able to sympathize because we've all lost someone special, and understand that we're not saying they're not in a better place, but just saying that they are does not bring much comfort.
Right. And also, we don't know what that person's belief system was. And we say something like that person, but they're not saved. They're not going to a better place. I was praying that God would save them before they died. And they may feel that they didn't get that opportunity. So we have to be cautious. That is a good point that you made, Sister Vanessa. So my question to you now is, what would be something that they could say instead?
Instead of saying they're in a better place, you can say instead, I'm sorry you're suffering. I'm sorry you're hurting right now. I'm sorry you're grieving. I hate that you're going through this. You know, have compassion. And certainly the person is glad their loved one is not suffering anymore. But it does not make the pain any different. Focus on the person who is experiencing the pain at the moment. Loss hurts. It hurts deeply. Do not try to hurry the process. So, I'm sorry you're suffering. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry you're grieving. That right there would be a better thing to say. Amen. So, Sister Kim, if you can, let us know. What is something else we should try not to say that would be better for a person who is grieving?
So, I've learned and am learning, because this is a journey, that you don't say, please let me know if there's something that I can do for you. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do for me. My children need to be fed. My dog need to be walked. I got dishes from all of these people running in and out of my house, piling up in my sink. I have a laundry list of things that did not get done and I can't do because I got to deal with the funeral. I have to deal with all of the people coming in. So yes, don't ever, that is not a really good, I know we mean well when we say that, but 99.9% of the time, they're not going to call you and they're not going to tell you that they need anything. And it just makes us feel better. So, well, I asked them, I asked if she needs something and she told me no, she was good. Well, if you don't cook, Grubhub and all of these different places deliver, you don't have to cook. and just take their children out to the park, or come and give them a break and let them go give them, those are some things that we can do. So we don't have to, please stop asking, is there anything I can do? Because if we have eyes and we have ears, we know there are plenty of things that we can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you did say what we should say or do instead. So when we're making this plea, and we're, instead of let me know what I can do for you, how do we go about bringing up what can be done for them? If they do not tell us, hey, my dog needs walking, or what can we say?
Well, when we come over, or when we make arrangements, sometimes we just show up, and that's not really a great thing to do, because we know that they're busy. We have to find out if they're available, and then we can just go in and say, you know what, I see that you have a couple of loads of laundry that are piling up. Let me do that for you, because I know that you're busy, or I know that you haven't had an opportunity to walk your dog, so let me do that for you. Let me get these dishes, because it's a lot of people in here and you have other things to do, so I'm going to take care of that for you. And that takes a load off of them, and it allows them to sit down and just breathe and process without thinking, when all of these people leave, I got all of this stuff to do. And then don't stop. Continue doing that until they're able to do that for themselves. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it every week, but every now and then, just go by or call and see what they're doing, and make a visit and say, I just came by to check on you. And the Lord laid it on my heart to do this for you. Whatever it is that you need that is going to allow you to help them, say that, so that you can give them a breather. So that would be a better thing to do. Say, I'll come over and do a few loads for you. I know that you are used to doing it on your own, but I'm going to do this for you. Or I'll take the children to school this week, so don't worry about it. Whatever it is that you know that they are going to be struggling with, that's a better thing to say than to say, is there anything that I can do to help you? Because there's always something.
Absolutely. It is always something. And this is truly what ministry is. Ministry is putting your hands to something someone needs, providing and meeting a need. And when we meet the needs of the people that we say we care about or love, or that Jesus told us to care about and love, we are actually doing hands-on ministry.
Yes.
We are not just sitting around, we're actually putting our hands to work. So that's good. That is real good to know.
And so as we come to the next question, give us something else that you can say instead of something that we shouldn't. The next question, that thing that we should not say, should I say?
What we should not say is you can always have another kid and someone just lost their child. You can always marry again and they lost their spouse.
Yeah.
You know what? My grandma wouldn't mind you coming over. She can be your grandma. You can have another grandma. Even though it sounds wonderful coming out, the person going through this is personal. This has nothing to do with your grandma. It has nothing to do with getting another child. Even if they had another child, it would not replace the child they lost. Another husband will not replace the husband. Nothing can replace that. We are one of a kind, uniquely made individuals, just like nothing can replace and nobody can replace you. Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because I had to put my dog to sleep. That was a rough time. And if a pet owner, people don't know that that's a rough time. That's a time of grieving because they have become a part of your family. And the worst thing somebody can say to me at that moment is, you can get another dog, because I can't get that dog back. We can't. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be a person. It can be your pet, because they become so intertwined in your family. And so we have to be cautious about the words that we speak, because that kind of makes it sound real callous.
Yes.
What you mean I can get another dog?
Right.
So, and it's the same way when you're talking about somebody's family member, or if they lost a child. Well, you can always have another child, even if that child is born as, if you have a miscarriage, you can't say to someone, well, you can always get pregnant again, because they're still grieving the loss of the one that they just had. And so we just have to be
absolutely
a little bit more selective with our wording. So Vanessa, you were about to say something.
I was just going to add to that, because we're not just talking about grief of people who's passed on. We're talking about all kinds of grief. So whether it is someone, because someone may have said, well, that's an animal, that's a dog. Well, that's still grief if they lost their pet. And like she said, that's part of their family. And so, yes, it may just be a dog to you, but to them, it was a member of the family. Even though it was an animal, it was their animal. Yes. And so it's important to them. So even more so, we're talking about grief. You've been on your job, say, for 20, 25 years, and all of a sudden it stopped. You did not have plans to quit working for another several years. How to rearrange your whole life, leave that job, leave those people that you may have formed a bond with as co-workers. Some co-workers are actually good people. So everybody doesn't have bad co-workers. Some of them are, and now all of a sudden you may not have that connection anymore, because work is where you were connected. Leaving a church. A lot of people are going through grief right now because their church is closed and they cannot make those connections. We're talking about anything that bothers you, hurts you, or causes you grief. These stages can still apply, and these wordings and what not to say can apply to you as well. So we want to make sure that you understand, even if you have not lost anyone, if you've lost anything and you've been grieving and you want to be a support to someone, these are the things you do not say.
Yes. So Vanessa, so instead of saying you can always, how would you word that? How would you reword it?
A more beautiful thing to say is, tell me about your loved one. That opens up their heart to express what they're feeling about that person. So at that moment, that shows that you truly care that I lost someone. Yes. I lost someone. You want to hear about the person I lost. And I might cry while I tell you, because it's emotional. And we do have emotions. For those who think people should not cry, God gave us tear ducts so that the tears could flow when necessary. So but all this extra stuff that people say, you have to use wisdom as to when to say them, because I do need to cry. I do need to get it out. I do need to say what I need to say. And you asking me to tell you about my loved one, that's beautiful. So when dealing with present pain of loss, it can be hard to look towards the future because it's filled with so many unknown aspects. How do I readjust my life? So help the person focus on the memories by asking specific questions and being an active listener. An active listener, a lot of people do not know what an active listener is. It's you're not listening to respond, you're listening to understand.
Absolutely.
So you're not waiting for your chance to jump in and say something. You're listening for understanding. So when it is time to say something, you can say the right thing.
Yes.
Mr. Kemp, we have
Yes,
another
ma'am.
question. Tell me something else that people often say to someone who is grieving, but should not say.
I know how you feel.
Ooh.
I know how you feel. Well,
Do
really,
you
you
really?
don't. You really, really don't know how I feel because you're not me. And when we say that, it oftentimes help us to feel better that we've even asked. But what we have done was minimize the fact that this person is having some having a very personal experience. This experience is not your experience, and you're really truly not able to understand their loss. Although you've had some similar experiences, if I lost a brother and someone else lost a brother, they may have a similar experience, but my brother was my brother.
Absolutely.
And how I felt about my brother is not necessarily the same way you felt about your brother. And so my experience is different. And so and we have to not ask that question because we can't claim to know. And just because you say that, it doesn't validate the other person's feelings. It really doesn't. It makes them feel like you think you know them better than they know themselves. And I know you don't know how I feel, because if you really knew how I feel, you would be screaming. You would be screaming. You would be pulling your hair out, because I don't know what to do with myself right now. I feel like I need to come out of my skin. That's how I really feel. But I'm holding myself together for you. And I shouldn't have to do that when I'm the one who's grieving. So yes, we should not be asking that. We should not be saying that, because my memories, my feelings, and my thoughts are different. And they are not shared feelings with my loved one, because we didn't have the same relationship. So, and please, during this time, don't tell me how your brother died and how your mama died and all of your morbid stories. This is not the time to tell them that, well, when my brother died, I experienced this and I went through that. And all of the horror stories that went on with the funeral and the property and all of that stuff that we go through when people pass, that's not the time to tell that. You got to hold that to later. Hold it to later, if ever. There's some things that we should never tell. And so those might be some of those things that we should never tell. So no, we don't say, how do you feel? But what
That's
you
good.
should say instead is, I can only
What
imagine.
should you say instead?
I can only imagine how you must be feeling right now. I can't imagine. It's mind-boggling. How you're feeling. And give that person a chance to identify how they actually do feel, rather than you telling them. And if there's a pause, let it be a pause. So if you say, I can only imagine how you must be feeling right now, I am so sorry. If they don't say anything, hold it. Don't say nothing. Just let that silence be. And it may be seeming like it's the longest pause in the world, but it's okay, because now they're getting a chance to process, because nobody else has said this to them. So allow them an opportunity to process what you just said, and try to force a conversation. So
that's good.
Yes. So Sister Vanessa, I know you're going to add on to this one, but I want to ask you a question. What not to say? Give us another thing not to say.
Okay. And I'm going to combine two things because they actually go together. Okay. What not to say is, this all happens eventually. Everyone has to go sometimes. No one lives forever. And I'm going to combine that with it was God's will.
No.
God has a plan. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
So we know that everything happens for a reason. I may not know that reason or understand that reason. I know this will happen eventually, but why now? Right. Everyone has to go sometime. I know that, but why my loved one? No one lives forever. I understand. I get that. We're talking about here and now and how I feel, not about you rationalizing that, hey, we all gonna die sometime. Well, thank you. I feel better. No, I don't. I mean, we really have to be mindful of what we're saying. Oh, we all gonna die. Yeah, thanks. So everyone does experience death and loss. It's a part of life. We know that. But this is not the time to bring that up when someone just lost someone. This perspective minimizes the actual loss at the moment. I'm not talking about everyone. I'm not talking about other people. My loved one died. Right. Could you have some compassion for my loved one being gone? And so when we talk to people, this phrase is often tossed around when people lose their parents. And, you know, they'll say those things because, oh, they were old. Okay, well, I know people that live to be 105 or 110, 115. You know, you read about these people. You're saying because my parent was 75, it was time for them to go? You know, that is not something you should say. That is hurtful. That is not helpful. We should learn what to say. And, you know, so the griever will think that, well, why is this God's plan? Do you have an answer for that if they ask you that? Because you just said it was God's plan. Do you have an answer for why today was God's plan? Do you have an answer for why would God make me suffer right now or my family suffer right now? Because these are the questions you'll get when you say the wrong thing sometimes, especially if this person is truly emotionally distraught and angry with God. And you're bringing up that, oh, God took them to make them a flower in his garden. Okay. Really? God couldn't just supernaturally grow some flowers. He had to take my loved one. And okay, that doesn't make sense to me. And we shouldn't throw around things like that because especially to young children, we'll tell them, oh, they're gone because God took them. You know, they're going to grow up resenting God taking their mother when they were 5 years old because that's what you told them. God took them. That's aggressive. That seems wrong. Just imagine yourself in a 5-year-old body being told, God took your mother. You didn't need your mother. God did.
That's a good point.
That could hurt and damage someone for even having a religious belief or desire to even to know who Jesus is. Because all he's going to do is he took my mother and I grew up bad because God took my mother. So now I'm mad at God. So we have to have some understanding about what we say and don't say. And also that understanding that, you know, this can even cause people to lose the faith that they did have. For those who don't, it can feel distance. They can feel distant and alienated. So let's stay away from certain words and certain phrases.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So what would you say to them instead? What is another way to say that?
Another way to actually say that you must really miss them. I know you must really miss them. They were such an important aspect in your life. You know, anything that will let them know that you connect with them. The loss of a loved one is a great source of pain. We said that. And brushing it aside as if it's just, hey, people come and go every day. That's not showing compassion and love. So make sure you empathize, sympathize, show compassion, show love, and say what's necessary to say. You must really be missing them.
Yeah.
Give them an outlet.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds so much better. That it just sounds so much inviting, you know. It sounds like it would cause me to relax a little bit more, because if you think about the stresses around grief, how we say things cause people to relax, and to be more at peace with the situation, and it facilitates the grief process, how we say things to people and how they receive it. It helps a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, something else, you know, where this group is formed by Christians, but we'll pray for anyone. We love everyone. It doesn't matter what your state of mind or your religion or, you know, whatever you believe. We love you regardless, God, because God loves you regardless. So as in some of the religious circles, we get used to saying certain things. And, you know, and we put God in everything, and God is in everything, and we should never leave him out. But we should also be mindful that everyone is not in the same place of faith and belief at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it may be understandable to you why their loved one is gone. It may not be to them. And we can't be so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good to those that are in need, that we cannot see their pain, we cannot see their suffering, we cannot see their hurt, but we judge and criticize and assume that they know what we know. And a lot of times when we go through grief, we forget what we know.
Right.
So just imagine those who don't know much of anything. So Sister Kim, what else should we not be saying or try to avoid saying during times of grief?
We should avoid saying stuff like, you're handling this better than I expected you would. Because if it was me, well, it's not you. and so when we say stuff like that, it gives people the idea that they should stop their grief, and that their grief is not valid, and that they have to put on a happy face for you. And it causes them to it makes people think that you're surprised and that you're reinforcing the fact that they should not be suffering. They should not be grieving. And a lot of times we put, and it causes people not to finish the process, because it's the same as saying to them, stop crying, be strong. When we say you're handling it better, we're telling them that you know what, you're doing real good. Don't go any further in your grief process than you are right now. You're handling this just fine where you are. And that's not something that we should tell people. We should let them grieve.
Absolutely. So what should we say instead?
Instead, we might tell them or say to them, you might not be feeling great, but it's okay. You're not feeling the best, but it's okay. Not this will pass. We know that it will, but don't tell them that. But it's okay. In the moment, you're okay. And this gives them the freedom and to feel how they feel. It lets them know that they're in a safe place, and that the passing of their loved one, they're being comforted, and it's being acknowledged that not without difficulties, but they're okay, even how they feel right now. And that's what we should let them know, that it's not feeling great. You may not be doing great right now, but that's okay. This is what is expected of you. You're not going to be okay.
Yes.
So, and another thing that what we should not do or say, Sister Vanessa, would be what? The
last one for today, and it's pretty extensive because it can go in different directions, and we probably heard it or seen it go in different directions. I'm going to say, don't cry.
Oh.
You need to be strong. You need to be strong for your mama. You need to be strong for your children. Because everybody depends on you. You need to be strong. The reason why we should not say this is because this is a time of weakness. If we cannot be weak during this time, so when is it okay for me not to be strong? Please give me a date and time and I'll be there.
You're right.
Tell me when is it okay for me to cry, to mourn, to grieve. Oh, when I'm by myself and nobody's around? Well, when it first happened, everybody's around. But I have to be strong for everybody, but they get to cry. They get to grieve. They get to talk. That's not fair. It's not fair, and it's not right to tell people that. Don't cry. And like I said before, there's a reason God gave us tear ducts. We should express that emotion. Sometimes it flares up to the point that you cannot even control it. You didn't want to cry today and you cried all day. You didn't want to be weak today, but you were weak today. But that's where God's strength is made strong. Jesus said that's where we come up. This is when we can, if we have any faith or hope, this is where the Holy Spirit comes in to comfort us. Why would he need to comfort us if there was nothing to be comforted?
Absolutely.
We need this. And so a griever thinks, okay, when you tell them don't cry or be strong, it's like, well, I can't stop crying. How do I stop crying? I want to not cry, but this hurts. Some people cry at the sight of a needle. Some people aren't strong when they see blood. And you're telling me someone's gone and departed from my life that I'm supposed to just brave it out, be strong, suck it up.
Yeah.
We should not do that. If they want to cry, let them cry. They need to cry. They don't know how to be strong. That's why you're there. You're there to support them, to help them in their area of weakness, to give them hope, and to be somebody they can lean on. So what if they do need to cry? Can they cry on your shoulder? If they aren't strong, can you be strong for them as their support person or support team? Can you properly just be there? Because one of the things was, it says something not to do was to ignore that this is happening or not say anything because you don't want to talk. It is good to be quiet and use wisdom, but not saying anything is sometimes like they feel that you don't even recognize that they are there and the loved one is gone. So this is a point of weakness for them. And this is why a lot of families fall apart, because people will not allow them to be who they need to be at that moment to get all of this out. And yes, they're going to these, especially big families who already have a lot of controversy and already have a lot of things going on in their life and already have strife and division. They're going to need a support team to keep them together. They're going to need a lot of prayer. They're going to need a lot of understanding, and they're going to need people who are mature enough to be wise enough to say the right thing. So even if it's, I'm here for you.
Yes.
I love you. I'll be with you. You can count on me to pray for you or to bring you food or to, just something assuring. I'll take the kids for a while. So recapping a lot of this stuff is pretty much being support. Don't say what you wouldn't want to hear.
Yes. Yes.
That's the bottom line. Say.
Yes.
So in essence to this, say what you would want to hear during this time.
Right.
And be who you would want somebody to be for you during
Yes.
this time. So the important thing to take from this, don't say things like it could be worse. At that moment, it can't.
Mhm.
Don't say things like, yeah, but I know a person who went through the same thing you did and she lost her husband. Not the time.
Right.
We have to use wisdom
Yes.
and allow the Holy Spirit to help us help them.
So, so there was so many more things we could have said today
Yes.
because the list was extensive, but we couldn't get to them all. So that we've run out of time, and we hope we've said something that may help. We hope we have helped somebody today, because
Yeah.
recapping it, it certainly helped me today. There are some things that I will never say again. Because this will be ringing in my head, in my heart.
Yes.
I don't want to be that person. So I will be the person
Right.
that I want someone to be to me. And
Absolutely.
so change begins with us. And so only we can start those changes. So we hope that you enjoyed our discussion, and we hope that you will be able to join us on the next time that we are going to the second Saturday in February. So we'll be doing another discussion, and we hope that you will get something out of it. Again, we are here every second and fourth Saturday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we hope that you will join us. We Care Ministry Support Team is here for you. If you've lost anyone and are having difficulties of any kind, it doesn't matter what it is, or you need special prayer, we're here for you. Please send go on to the website and you can sign up if you need to talk to somebody on the Facebook page, right, Vanessa? It's on the Facebook page, and you can sign up and we'll schedule an appointment with you, or you can do it the traditional way by emailing wecare.ministry@att.net. And if you have a prayer request, you could please send us an instant message or use any one of those venues, and we will add you to the prayer list. We also have a YouTube channel, so if you would like to look at some of the discussions or to see this one again or look at anything, it's still on Facebook, but you can also go to the to the YouTube channel. Just simply type in We Care Ministry Support Team and we will pop up. Again, we will be praying for you, your family, loved ones, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please submit your prayer requests now, because we're not only praying for you on Thursdays, we're praying for you throughout the week when the Lord lays you up on our heart. So so we are making sure that you are covered in prayer. So we're asking you to cover us in prayer as well. So don't forget to like, share, and follow us on Facebook. And remember that We Care Ministry Support Team is
here helping you to navigate through. So tell your family
and your friends
and your loved ones about We Care Ministry Support Team. We love you. We thank you. We're praying for you.
God bless you. See you next time.
God bless you.